Welcome to Metamorphosis with Dr. Tassel Faith. In the next hour, you will embark on a journey to awaken your inner identity, remember the truth of who you are, and come home to yourself. Enter your transformative chrysalis, experience the fundamental change you need, and emerge a leader for your own life and for the planet. Transform your world naturally and supernaturally. Metamorphosis begins now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Tassel Faith, the priestess of Metamorphosis, and you are listening to the Metamorphosis Show on the Transformation Network. Please stay with us for the next hour and let us help you experience your own personal metamorphosis. And today we have just an amazing guest. I feel so honored to speak with him. It's Dr. John Gray, the author of one of the most popular relationship books of all time, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus. USA Today listed his book as one of the top 10 most influential books of the last quarter century. In hardcover, it was the #1 best-selling book of the 1990s. So amazing. John Gray has written over 20 books, which have been translated into approximately 45 languages in more than 100 countries. Wow. Welcome, John, to the program.
Happy to be with you. It's a pleasure.
Yes. So it's just a real honor, of course, to meet you. And thank you so much for being here. And what would you most like to talk about in this time together?
Well, I love transformation. I've been in the transformation group for a long time. Yes. I started doing yoga at 3 years old. My dad taught yoga to the family, even though he was a Texas millionaire oil man.
Oh, wow.
And his father was an oil man. And, you know, that's all at the beginning of the whole oil boom in America. So I lived in a really nice neighborhood, never saw poverty, but we were the most humble house in the neighborhood. I thought we were poor people. And so I had I guess what people are saying now is a privileged childhood. And my parents loved me. My brothers were all jealous of me. So it's not like I didn't have wounds from childhood, but I was very fortunate in that my parents stayed together. They loved each other and they loved me very much and tried to love all the kids that much. My brothers were usually jealous of me because later on my mother told them, you know, I love you all, but somehow Johnny makes you love him more.
Oh, dear.
So I didn't know why they all were so jealous and would torture me, bury me, throw me off the roof, put me in fires. I mean, I really had they're all just moments, you know. You can look at your life and see all the traumas, or you can see how wonderful life was. And I guess I've always been gifted as looking at how wonderful it is. Yeah. But then in the 80s, in the 60s, another transformational movement occurred, which was rock and roll. And, you know, the hippie land, men going to their female side, growing their hair out, beads, chants, do what you like, demonstrate for Vietnam. You see, these are all huge transformational changes. Okay, this was a little bit before that was Elvis the Pelvis. You know, this was, you know, freedom was coming out after World War II. And that meant freedom for women to be more independent and be more masculine, and for men to do what they like, which is when a man does that, he's on his female side. He's literally making female hormones when you just follow what you want to do, as opposed to, you know, go to war, get a job, make money, make a commitment to a woman, and then you get sex. so totally different world that we are in now. But if you look at what I now see since those days, I look at the 90s as the time of Camelot. Why? We didn't have all this craziness, the woke craziness, the war going on right now, the Iraq war, the 9/11 stuff, and then the Afghanistan, and now we've got Russia going on. You know, all this is crazy stuff. We in the 80s and 70s, boy, it was a great time. and men knew they were men, women knew they were women, and women were just experimenting with being on their male side. So that's okay. That's good. You know, we should have moderation in all things. Men were moving to their female side. The problem is when men go to their female side too much, they become addicted to it. All addictions for a man are actually estrogen producing activities. Estrogen is the hormone that women need. Maybe for well-being, women need at least 10 times more. And to have a romantic relationship, she needs to make 20 times more. And so we can explore today, as far as transformation, we're at a time of change where the old-fashioned culture, which supported women in making female hormones, the old-fashioned culture that supported men in making male hormones is gone. And so we have lowering testosterone levels in males, and a man needs to make 10 to 20 times more testosterone just to feel good. And then to have romantic feelings towards a woman in her presence, her testosterone needs to go maybe 20 to 30 times higher. And that's what creates the bond that can make a lifetime of love. You need to have this bonding of men's testosterone going up in her presence, estrogen going up. And even there's research showing that when women's estrogen goes up, and estrogen pretty much goes up when you feel safe to depend on someone for something meaningful. And it used to be women would pick a man and felt safe to depend on him for something they really needed, which is called security and finances, right? And men would do that when we were usually pregnant. We didn't have birth control. As soon as birth control came in, promiscuous sex came in. And I'm saying promiscuous sex because it's basically sex without love. I'm not telling everybody to wait to get married or whatever, but don't have sex unless you know the person and love the person. Otherwise, you're throwing away your life force. And let me just take this. I turn this phone off. Okay, sorry.
No, it's great.
So there was huge upheavals of change. That's why we're seeing the craziness today. Is as you move from being as a woman, moving from your female side to your male side, there's a place in between where there's balance. And that's Camelot. That's the time where creativity and internet came about, and so many amazing transformations took place. The communication was a huge issue. So, but then what happened is now women go too far to their male side. You have more divorce, more single boys growing up, becoming dysfunctional. Almost every male I've taught in the prisons does not have a father presence in there. You look at these violent kids, all of them, there's another shooting today. They don't have fathers. We have as 40% of white boys right now in America do not have a father living at home with them. And 70% of Black boys do not have a father at home with them. You cannot learn how to be a man if you don't have a father who knows how to be a man, providing for a woman and a happy mother. If a boy doesn't have a happy mother, he doesn't know how to feel. He cannot feel. He would just, he has reactions. He has emotional reactions to things. And that's part of what a father does, is a father teaches a son how to react to situations. No big deal, cool, calm, and collected. You don't whine, you don't complain, you suck it up, you solve the problem. These are all male qualities that are now even seen as toxic by some people today. It's nonsense, it's craziness. But what happens is, and now we see brain scans of it as well, when women are on their male side, it's addictive. What happens is one of the symptoms is you feel overwhelmed. I watched this happening more and more over the last 40 years, how women have felt overwhelmed. Well, you're overwhelmed when you're on your male side. Your male side is the part of you that solves problems. Okay? And we have a male and female side, all of us do. It's just men need to nurture their male side at least 10 times more than a woman needs to nurture her male side. Women need to nurture their female side. But once you're addicted to the male side, if you're a woman, you have this feeling of overwhelm, which raises stress, and stress inhibits estrogen production in a woman. For a man, stress inhibits testosterone production. And, we don't have anybody teaching these ideas, and they come from simple common sense. When you look at the statistics, look at the data, and you'll see that for men, the only time they experience elevated stress levels, look at their hormones. Their testosterone's going down, their estrogen's going up. For women, when they're stressed, their estrogen's going down, their testosterone's going up. So you see, we're really opposites on a certain biological level that then affects what makes us happy. And that's what we want. We want to be happy. We want to be productive. We want to have motivation. We want to have forgiveness. We want to have acceptance. All those attitudes in our mind, we want to teach people that. But you have to also recognize you can't even produce those attitudes if your hormones are out of balance, because you're in a stress state. And when you're in a stress state, blood flow diminishes to the balance of the prefrontal cortex. What happens is the prefrontal cortex becomes activated.
Mhm.
The right side of it becomes activated, which only looks at the negative. So people are lost looking at the negative instead of the left prefrontal cortex looking at the positive. And both of those sides become activated when your stress levels go down. That's an integrated person. You have a male side, a female side, and men have gone over their female side, massive addiction to sex, impersonal sex, and pornography, masturbation, all those things. We've gotten to the point now where in schools they're now actually teaching children to masturbate. It's like it's a way of self-love. It's not a way of self-love. It's always been known, and it makes you feel awful afterwards anyway. And anybody who does that, you go, oh, I've got no energy, I feel icky. And they make the foolish conclusion, well, I feel icky because society says you shouldn't do it. And I go, no, society says you shouldn't do it because it's wasting life force energy. You always feel icky and awful if you waste something. It's a loss. Now we have to always forgive ourselves, but the problem is masturbation for women or for men, but much more for men, it's massively addictive. The average now for teenagers I've read is 2 to 3 times a day. And the whole act, the porn industry says the average time a male spends at the porn site is full 8 minutes. So you've got searching around, finding the woman, paying, and then you got 2 or 3 minutes to just waste your energy. It's like a shot of cocaine. It produces dopamine, which then makes you addicted. And what people don't realize, the other side of a cocaine addiction is when you're not on cocaine, you go to the other extreme. And so when men experience their testosterone going up from porn, right afterwards, their testosterone goes down even further. And the research shows that goes down to baseline, and baseline every year is going down 1%. Now, the amazing research that Japanese people did, because pornography it's the #1 pornography country of the world, and America being second. The reason they do this research, they're trying to solve the problem of what called soft men. They all live they don't work, they're very passive, they have no ambition, they have no strength, they can't win over a woman in any way. So what did they find? They found that excess masturbation weakens a man. And so this is the test they did. They found that if a man has sex on Saturday night, we're not even talking about masturbation, but he has sex on Saturday night, he ejaculates. If he goes for 6 days without ejaculating, abstaining, on the 7th day having sex, his testosterone level, as soon as he wakes up, will be 50% higher. If he has sex twice a week or just masturbates twice a week, his testosterone will go down to baseline. So other forces are saying, oh, masturbation doesn't lower your testosterone because it goes down to your baseline, but it doesn't increase your testosterone. So it's a matter of more is not better. Quality is the secret. And then if you actually make love to somebody you're in a committed relationship, these are things people don't know. The Italians did this research. A different hormone gets produced for men if you're in a committed relationship or you're feeling love for your partner. It's called prolactin. Prolactin inhibits the sexual addiction. So he doesn't feel like he wants to have sex more than once a week. Okay. It's not like has to practice a lot of discipline, nor does he cheat on his partner, or lust after other people or whatever. Whenever a man's lusting after a woman he can't have, he's just losing his self-esteem. There's so much is going on today that's unfortunate. And we'll just try to balance it a little bit since I'm going so into this. This is transformation. This is how our world is transforming down. And the power is sex with love actually frees you from the addiction to sex, which then allows you to not be addicted to ejaculating so much. And when you see porn, hopefully you don't see porn, you laugh at it. How ridiculous, how stupid, how foolish. I remember when I first married my wife, Bonnie, of 34 years. Back then everybody was like, oh, the porn was just starting on videos. You should watch it, they said. Okay, so we watched it. And, I saw a naked woman. That was cool. And then my wife was watching this whole porn thing. And she started laughing. This is so silly, John. It's not a turn on at all. Because she has high self-esteem, you see. But if you don't have high self-esteem, then watching somebody else and all that will produce some hormonal responses. But sex without love is like a shallow experience. And unfortunately, Men need to be taught that, and women need permission to feel that. Most women typically with self-esteem feel it's a waste. That's why you'll hear so many women say, why didn't he call back after sex? That's because she feels awful. Okay. She feels awful after having sex if a guy doesn't call back. And you could say, no, I feel awful because he didn't call back. But if actually having sex with him made you feel good, you wouldn't feel awful if it didn't come back. You're saying, I want more, I want more. But the mistake she made is she had sex before she had more. You have to have, and then you bond first, and then you have a relationship. But there's so much pressure on women to have sex, freedom of sex. This is foolishness. For me, just to put it, to have one partner, 34 years, deeply in love, great sex, that's freedom. That's the freedom where you don't lust after anybody. You don't feel like you're missing out. You know, these guys say, oh, I don't want to miss out. I want my freedom. I said, your freedom, lusting after women, chasing after women who don't love you or care about you or want you, or one night stands that make you feel awful afterwards. But a one night stand for a man, I have to put it, you know, there's a comic, somebody said, is it really true that a man will like you less after having sex if you just have a one night stand? And the comic, the flip side of it, when the woman's asking the man that, he says, well, the truth is, I don't like you as much, but I like myself more.
Yes. So I wonder, John, how we would frame this explanation that you've so articulately given us. Is it feels like we're in such a culture of disconnection, and this sex without love, which has become so commonplace, just feels like one symptom of this overall disconnected culture that we are living in.
Yeah, it's basically, it's the inability to, comes down to inability to discern reality. The reality is men are men, women are women. We're very, very different. We need to nurture those differences so that then we can integrate in the opposite sex. Like I'm a man, I'm very feminine. I'm very loving. I'm very happy. Happiness, love, these are feminine qualities within all of us. But I only can integrate that by not becoming a woman. I stay a man and I respect a woman. I have sex with a woman. I provide pleasure for a woman. I bond with her. Then suddenly all my female qualities are embraced by loving her. And my male qualities are sustained as opposed to going down, which is what's been going on as men become more, they become like a woman. And the same thing for women as they become like a man. Rather than to feel their power, which is the power of attraction. I have my male powers, look what I can do. My female powers, look what I can attract. I can get other people to do for me. Now we got all women. The source of most dissatisfaction for women is feeling, I have to do everything. Well, it's the world you created. You don't have to do everything. You created it that way. You have to focus on creating partnerships so you don't have to do everything. Get a man who kneels before you because you're so loving, and you will be a happy woman. And also run a company. You can be on your male side. You just have to anticipate coming home to love. Then your body will make more and more of the female hormones that are the foundation of happiness and love.
Beautiful, beautiful. And before we get started a bit more, John, what's the best way for listeners to contact you?
Oh, well, I have a website like everybody else. It's called marsvenus.com. I have I think 26 books listed on there. This is one of the ones I'm talking about today called Beyond Mars and Venus. If you haven't read Men Are From Mars, that's a foundation of all my work. But here, why I wrote Beyond Mars and Venus 26 years later is because so many women are on their male side. So when they read Men Are From Mars, they look at it and they go, I feel like I'm from Mars and my husband's from Venus. And that's called role reversal. And I'll just say from 50 years of doing this, role reversal kills all passion. Okay, these people want more romance. You talk about, we want to have more romance, electricity, great sex, making love, all that's part, just makes your relationship so grounded and strong. Well, it's easy to have strong romantic feelings for most people in the beginning because it's new. When something is new, it produces dopamine, and dopamine in men raises testosterone, and that's his attraction to his partner. And dopamine in women produces estrogen, and that's her attraction for him. And then it compounds going back and forth. As women's estrogen goes up, she puts out a smell that literally talks to the man's brain to produce more testosterone. And as men's the pheromones, And men's testosterone pheromones have been proven to raise women's estrogen. So the whole idea of making love is you're at a place of I love you, and then I love you more, and I love you more, and I love you more, and I love you more, 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 more. So when you have sex, again, we have to learn about this is a transformation in that people didn't make love in the past. They had sex. And just to put a conscious, we're talking about transformation and change. If you go back 50 years, most women didn't even know, or there were some, of course, but most didn't even know what an orgasm was. And a man didn't care about her having an orgasm. Now, something happened after World War II where men started to begin asking the question in sex, did you have an orgasm? That's a huge change. Go back throughout time, men never asked women, did you have an orgasm? He actually he doesn't feel successful. He doesn't feel great after making love if you didn't have an orgasm. Now, that is too much pressure on women to have an orgasm. Granted, I'm not telling men to put that pressure. But the reality, I just want to show the shift to how amazing men have shifted to respecting women, and that we want you to be happy too. We can have our orgasm easy. And I would just add to this that Freud was the first person who talked about orgasms in the Western psychology, explaining that women don't have orgasms most of the time. We even have studies that show that interviews with women, big studies have been done, not me, I didn't do them, I just read them. And half the women have never had what they would consider an orgasm. Half. That's shocking.
And I'm sorry, when was this study? A recent study?
Oh, they've been over and over and over. Yes.
Even recently, 50% of women have not experienced an orgasm.
And then you look at the 50% who have, half of those have only had an orgasm privately, not with a man in the room. See, these are all trust issues. It's like, you see, when women used to be dependent on men for money, then you trusted him if he brought home the money. All right. And then you felt loved, you felt supported, and need was being met. But you don't need a man to bring home money. You don't need a man to protect you because you've got police, theoretically. So what do you need a man for? Estrogen goes up when you feel I have a need and somebody is there for me. And estrogen has to double from your normal happy level in order to have an orgasm. So if you don't have trust in a man, you can't have an orgasm. You don't have the hormones to make an orgasm. And then you've got the ones who are stimulating their clitoris, thinking that's an orgasm. That is what Freud talked about. And again, so many Freudian ideas are sexist and out of date and not right, when actually the guy was a genius. He was brilliant. And we have to bring it back into context here. What he explained is that there was something called an immature orgasm. That was his term. And a mature orgasm. That's vaginal. That's a penis inside of a vagina. That's when you get the male and female energies and it's orgasm. It's a big deal, But the clitoral orgasm is an intensification to produce a release of tension. He was immature. So this is a lot of women, those women who are doing it alone, I would presume, the study didn't say how they're having an orgasm alone, but they're doing clitoral stimulation. And the difference between an orgasm and clitoral stimulation is, for a man, the difference between ejaculating with an orgasm or just having an orgasm. See, this is what men are learning today, advanced skills in sex, which is how to be multi-orgasmic, like women are multi-orgasmic when they are having vaginal orgasms. The clitoris is done, usually one or two. Sometimes it can be more, but it's not. It's a difference. One is intensification, focus, trying. I'm going to get there. I got my vibrator. I'm really getting there. Rub it harder. And then you get a release of tension. It's like a sneeze. It feels really good. There's no question about it. If you've never had that, that's nice. But it's not building. It's not making love. Making love is surrendering. For the woman, no goal, no intensification, no trying on her part. He's doing the job for you. He's carrying the package, okay? And he's doing it with you. And as your energy increases, your testosterone increases. You might then jump on him and do him for a little while. But the clitoris is a minor player at that point. We're talking about, there's a G spot that rises up in her vagina. There's an E spot that becomes hyper pleasurable. Then the cervix will actually start to become erect downwards to touch the tip of his penis. All of these are highly erogenous, exciting points that open up, and then it's amazing feeling. so many women have no idea of that. There's nobody to
Yeah.
train them. There's no men who can last long enough to do that, or to
Mhm.
warm her up enough first.
Yeah.
You've got to start with breathing. Spontaneous breathing is arousal. Then you go to kissing, and then there's tongue kissing, tongue and penetration there. And then there's touching the whole body and touching the breasts. For some women more than others, the breast
Mhm.
is a major oxytocin producer. Nipples, baby sucks on the nipples, you make oxytocin. Okay.
Mhm.
It's a real biological thing.
Mhm.
Sometimes in order to induce a labor, you can just suck her nipples and it'll produce the oxytocin, which will induce labor.
I didn't
And
know
as
that.
opposed to, doctors will give you Pitocin, which is
Mhm.
synthetic oxytocin to induce labor. Just suck on the
Yeah.
nipples if you like that. There's
Yeah.
everybody's got their own likes. Then you get down the clitoris. It's like another arousal stimulating thing, but it's just part of the foreplay.
Yeah.
For so many women, it's the main show. And a lot of my study has been studying Tantra since 1969. No, 79. I started teaching classes on multi-orgasm men and women. And then I went to China, and last 10 years, I go to China 3 times a year. And I study a lot over the last decade, the Chinese version, similar to the Hindu version. These ancient masters, not everybody could do these things, but you could learn to do them. They live longer, they're healthier, they're vibrant, and there's a system on how to do these things. And we just do it unconsciously. We're like monkeys, we just do it, and we kiss and we touch. But the whole idea, I'll elevate it to a higher level now, which is, if everybody was even when they have sex, why are you having sex? Why? It feels good, right? It feels good. And that's pretty much the only reason. Like, why I eat ice cream? It's not good for me. It feels good. So I do it in moderation. But with sex, you use sex with someone you love in order to feel more love. Because particularly for men, we do not feel as much love as women can feel. See, estrogen is love. All right. So women have 10 to 20 times more estrogen than men. So that's the feeling of love. But sex, a man can be in his male energy, heart erection, testosterone going up, and it feels so good. Now he can be masculine and feeling at the same time. And then he has to put his attention to, well, what am I feeling? I'm feeling love for my partner. And then to express that love, not by being quiet the whole time, but using language, which is, I love you. I always love you. I'll be there for you. You're so beautiful. I can't believe I'm so lucky to have found you. Just all this stuff in waves, you can have making noises and sounds, of course. But words also go along with it to bring it up to the mind, bring that sex energy up to the heart, expressing love. Most people are not taught, why are you having sex, as an opportunity to feel more love and to share that love with your partner, and for her to feel that love and respond to it as well. Letting her insecurities come out, like, do you love me? Am I still beautiful for you? Will you always love me? See, this is the thing. Women have to go to a really good therapist to even express their insecurities about love, and are they loved, and can they trust, and all that stuff is deep inside of women. That's vulnerability. You'd be embarrassed to say it with anybody else, but that's really why you're in an intimate relationship, is to go deeper inside. So this is all new ways of doing this. So the big transformation there is the realization that intimacy grows, passion grows as women open up more and men provide an empathy and an understanding and a respect for what's inside of her. And we have none of that today. We have women hiding what they feel, staying up in their head complaining, which is very different from feeling insecure. Do you love me? Do you care about me? Would you help me? Asking for help is a hard thing for women to do. Sharing what's inside is a hard thing to do. So what I teach women is how they can do that and not get addicted to that. Because see, a therapist, again, therapy is not really helping a lot of people. That's why they keep going back to therapy. They're addicted to therapy. Women, 90% of the people who go to therapy are women. It's addictive to have something produced, like porn produces testosterone men. Counseling, in some cases, I won't say all, but what I see out there all the time is women just paying money to have somebody listen to them complain and then talk about some of their feelings or whatever. And if they can get to the feeling level, they will produce estrogen, but they're not being educated every time on how they're the source of their problems. Okay. We are the source of our problems. That's the transformation that we're looking for on a global level, is that when we're distressed, stop trying to change the outer world to take away your pain. You have the ability as a conscious human being to reflect on your negative emotions and let them go and find the positive emotions behind them. That's our ability. That's the number one transformation there is. It started in the time of Buddha when he talked about the Four Noble Truths. Life is suffering. However, if you recognize what's causing the suffering, that's step two. What is causing my suffering? Well, what he meant by that is your thinking, what you think about suffering. If I expect my wife to be happy and with me all the time, well, that's an unrealistic expectation. I'm just in some fantasy world. If you're a woman, you expect a man to always be romantic and loving. You're in a fantasy world. You see, you have to understand the reality of life. So he was saying, you have to first discover the cause of your suffering is not you, not my partner, not my government, not white people. That's not the cause of my suffering. I'm suffering the way I react to that, the thoughts I have about that, the story I'm telling myself is the cause of my suffering. Then once you realize the story you're telling yourself, then he said the third noble truth is to let it go. Okay, you have to let it go. That's learning how to forgive. Jesus came along, forgive, let it go, let it go. Trust in God. Don't worry so much,
Yes. John, maybe could I ask you this about this topic of suffering? Do you see a difference between, say, pain that you might feel that might be quite present and just feel it, and then as the Buddha says, it releases, you feel it to clear it, rather than a lot of us remain in suffering, not feeling. And the feelings are all there. The uncomfortable emotions are there, but we're not feeling them. And that creates a lot of suffering.
Yes. So what you have is you have pain and suffering. They're two different things.
Yeah.
Pain is an emotion. Okay. By the way, unless it's physical, but that's also easy to release. But if you're doing energy healing, but emotions for most people, when you don't deal with your emotions, all negative emotions are pain and all positive emotions are pleasure. Okay. It's as simple as that. And so when you're feeling pain, what we do as human beings, and we're learning not to do, is we try to run away from our pain with addictions, whether that be pornography, yelling and screaming. It could be over exercising. It could be too much ice cream. It could be eating too much food, all those things. That's running away from our pain when we're seeking pleasure rather than being present with what our life is now. So are trying to get out of it. And this is, anger is our resistance to what is, that's pain. And fear is our resistance to what could be, that's pain. Sadness, despair, grief, all that is resistance to what's no longer here. We want to pull it back. Everything is just trying to get out of the moment. Okay. Which is be in the moment. You will learn to feel the pain, the painful emotions. Because when you can identify a painful emotion, and this is what all emotional intelligence is about. And which, if a therapist is good, they help you to identify behind your story, how does that feel? And then maybe it feels like I've been betrayed. Now take it to what emotion do you feel when you're feeling betrayed? Or I feel abandoned all by myself. Well, what emotion do you feel when you're feeling abandoned? I feel sad. I feel disappointed. I feel hurt. You see, it's a different tone. And if you're feeling uncertain and you're stressed, okay, uncertainty produces fear. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen. So what's the emotion? Just feeling uncertain will not release the pain. Feeling betrayed will not release the pain. I wrote about all of this in a book called How to Get What You Want and Want What You Have. That was a bestseller for a year. Now in that book, it's a success book. The key to having more, I have so much, I've achieved all my dreams. I keep achieving them. I know the system. I consciously used the system for 40 years. And the system was basically, you have part of it, the overlying umbrella is love what you have and want more. See, many people don't love what they have and they want more and they get more, but they're never happy with it. Desire is the foundation of success, desire and faith and belief. But you have to desire it. You have to really want it and you will get it. But if you're wanting it from a place of, I don't like what I have now, then you'll keep getting what you don't like now. And if you do get more money or more success, it will never feel enough because you're coming from a place of, I don't have enough, I want more. The nature of life is to want more, to have more and grow. But it only grows when you fertilize the ground you're growing from, which is, I love what I have. So if I resist what I have, and my desire is resisting what I have, then I only get more resistance. Anytime you resist, if you push, it pushes back. It doesn't go away. But what you can do is become aware of your resistance on an emotional level, feel it, and then let it go. But now just feeling it doesn't go away. That's because people are experts at hiding what they really feel. So let's take a few examples of that. If I'm angry, if I was angry and somebody said, John, you're not really angry, but you're actually afraid. I said, no, I'm not afraid. Well, actually you are. You can't be angry unless you're also afraid. I'm angry someone stole my money. Well, I'm afraid I won't have money. Okay. It's always, I'm angry with my wife. I'm afraid she's losing trust for me. I don't want her to mistrust me. Okay. So there's always insecurity behind all anger. There's insecurity. And when you're sad and you're disappointed, so you're feeling depressed and disappointed, inside that, quite often you're angry. You know, we all know depression is anger turned against yourself because you don't have the freedom to express it out. So this is emotional intelligence, 3.0. Okay, it's not what I read in books. It's what I teach in my seminars for 40 years, which is if you're stuck in any emotion, negative emotion, and you can't let it go, it's because there's something else behind it. And if you can't let that go, there's something else behind it. You know, for example, some women will cry and cry their whole lives after losing their husbands or going through a divorce, never wanting to find love again, despair. And if you're stuck in one emotion, that means there's another emotion you're not looking at. You have to expand your consciousness. And quite often you have to be angry about something, which is your partner. Because always when there's sadness, that's disappointment. That's what didn't happen. That's a negative reaction to what didn't happen. You have to look and see what's your negative reaction to what did happen. It's having a complete picture, you know, all four sides. And then below is the desire. What is it you're really wanting? And often, particularly women don't know what they want. Freud couldn't figure it out. I have, but the women start to know what they want after they look at what they don't want. Every woman knows what she doesn't want. She just doesn't. But if you look at three things you don't want, quite quickly, you kind of, this is what I do want. Sometimes you have to look at, this is nature. There's nothing wrong with anybody, but you have to, what I don't want, what I don't want, what I don't want. Oh, this is what I do want. So those negative emotions are all what you don't want. Anger's, I don't want just happen. Sadness, I don't want the situation that's in now. I want it to be the way I thought it should be. Fear is, I don't want what's going to happen in the future. So you go into, I don't want. Then ask yourself what I do want. And then yourself starts to emerge. The positive creative energy inside of you comes with wanting to achieve a goal or wanting to fulfill a need. And that's our male and female side. A female side of me has needs and wants to fulfill those needs. And the male side of me wants to achieve goals, make a difference, whatever it might be. And women have a male side. Men have a male side and a female side. Women have a male side and female side. But if you're unhappy, you're a woman, you can measure physiologically your hormones are not in a balanced place. Your male hormones are dominating your female hormone. And the flip side of that is for a man, if ever a man is lazy, angry, just the opposite, all those negative qualities, procrastinates, not following through, not feeling good about himself, not being able to be selfless, overreacting to you when you're overreacting. Women are born to overreact. Okay. That's part of the challenge that goes with all these emotions. And Freud explained that too. He explained why overreaction happens. If the more estrogen you have in your body, there's a tendency when you don't feel safe to overreact. And for men, if you don't have a lot of estrogen, you can suck it up. You see, I'm not telling men not to feel. I'm just saying, if you're upset, don't talk about your feelings. You'll just become more upset. Do something to solve problems. Go to your cave, stop talking, meditate, go exercise. There's so many things men can do to bump their testosterone up. And when your testosterone comes back to normal, your stress level's gone. Then you can talk about your feelings. And you will not be whining. You won't be complaining. You won't be blaming. You won't be being a victim. All this stuff in our society, these violent protests is only just the decline, as well as, and I just have to say it, this is my belief is, this abortion thing is just killing babies. It's killing babies in order to be promiscuous. If you couldn't get abortion, what you're going to have to do is realize, having a baby is a serious endeavor. Sex is a serious endeavor. And suddenly when they started doing birth control, now suddenly women could go out and have sex and go out and be addicted to sex like men are. This is nonsense. We shouldn't just be having sex. Sex should be the prize that you have to earn. And then it has meaning, it has value, and it has to do with love, not just loving sex. That's different. See, I feel love when I eat ice cream. Yeah. And if a man was a masturbator, he feels love for a couple of minutes and then it's gone. It's just like a shot of cocaine. It's a really tricky thing. And I know it's a big challenging subject and whatever, somebody's raped or this or that. I think there should be restrictions on it. But when it's suddenly just companies should pay for your abortions and everything's free and everybody should get abortions, what that means is everybody's going to have sex like a bunch of monkeys. We're a bunch of monkeys having sex. I watched the dogs doing it on the field the other day. This is all we are. We debase ourselves from our spiritual connection and divinity. Is we need to be responsible around our sexuality. Otherwise, society goes down. And I'm talking about heterosexual men doing pornography. They're throwing away their life force. You're a gay man. It's even worse. It's even worse. Gay men will actually go with other men 8 or 10 times in a night. This is life force draining out of their body. And then you look at gay women. Why aren't they with men? It's almost every case. There's no father available that was nurturing and supportive. They don't trust men. Imagine going through life with no trust for men. When a woman has trust in the presence of a man, her estrogen levels will rise. She will be attracted to men. So I've counseled gay women. I don't want to judge people, but I want to understand where this stuff comes from. It's basically the foundation of it is you don't trust men. You don't trust to be infinite. You don't trust to be open. And your father didn't deserve that. I mean, your father wasn't there. You have no positive role model. Think about this. How many children are growing up without fathers now? And then with this crazy society, trying to indoctrinate our children, 34, see, queer lifestyle, whatever queer lifestyle you want to look at, it's 1%. And then it started to become 3%. Now in some high schools, 34% of girls say they're queer. Queer means not the normal. We've normalized queer. It's okay to be queer, but we have to be responsible at every level, whether you're queer or not queer. Sex is very important. If you were to go to most cultures, if this 1% and I can give you all the explanations of that as well, but that's too much talk. There's research showing it, but 1% has this tendency of not being attracted to females, not due to dysfunction, but they're just, they're not the normal. In that case, in other cultures, a queer boy was made to be a shaman or a monk or a spiritual practitioner. Why? Because they're more vulnerable to being addicted to having sex with their own sex. If you have sex with your own sex, you become even more addicted to sex. And we have to teach this stuff. But think about it. This is so politically incorrect. You can't say anything about people that are queer, and yet they're the ones who are calling themselves queer. And that just means they're not like everybody else. We should be compassionate to them. We don't have to normalize them, that it's like this normal. It's not normal. You don't normalize it, but you have compassion for it, respect for it. And this is what they did in other cultures. If you were queer, you were a shaman and you had powers. You had more love. You could do healing. You had wisdom. You had creative talents. Some of our, our greatest artists, some of our greatest musicians were all queer. Okay, that's brilliant. You have brilliant genius, but their lives were filled with torment and suffering. And why is that? Because they were addicted to sex with their own sex. And women don't get addicted to each other. What happens is gay women, after 3 years together, as an average, are done. They don't have sex anymore. Sometimes they even bring a gay man in or watch gay male porn to get some male energy. But we need to connect with the opposite sex. If we don't have connect with the opposite sex, at least if you want to just be a nun, not have sex with men, then be a nun, be a female shaman. Sex should be with the God, with the heaven. It's beautiful. These nuns, they say that they're married to Jesus. That's a sweet thing.
Before we continue on, are there any upcoming events, programs that you have that our listeners could join in on?
Well, I have a free seminar right for introductory to my work, really the practical. Today, we're a little bit of like social, what's going on right now in the world and our history and the transformations we're going through. But at my workshop, at my website, the Foundation, Mars, Venus Ideas, we can talk a little bit about that free class called How to Get Everything You Want in Your Relationships. And then we have blogs that we send to you if you wish. Again and again, highly produced, beautiful videos of myself or one of my daughters teaching these ideas for women only. And eventually you'll have availability of a course called Understanding Men. That's a paid course. It's a 4-week course. It's unbelievable. I think it's the best course my daughter and I've ever done. It's amazing. We have other courses as well. We have courses on sex as well. They're very entertaining. I do these things in a fun way so that men will listen to it. Men do not want to be taught how to have sex. We sort of feel like so it's more like a comedy show on sex with all the instructions. And for women to understand men's sex in the bedroom as well, men need to understand women better. And we all know that men and women are different in the bedroom, but those differences pervade every aspect of our lives. So at marsvenus.com, and if you ever want to visit California and the Bay Area near San Francisco every 2 months, I do a class here, an in-person class where I work with couples or singles working with their issues and teaching them how to have a better relationship. And I highly recommend that. You know why I recommend that is you can see a video and you can read a book and you can get a lot of good ideas. But when you're actually like on tennis, you're playing tennis, but we actually play with a tennis pro, you learn. Okay. Yeah. So actually to be in a workshop where I'm working with people, sometimes if you want to, I'd work with anybody. There's not time to work with everybody, but we're working with a few people. You see yourself in that person. Yeah. So there's so much that we can learn. So that's available if people want to come here. But meantime, we have amazing, amazing videos for you at marsvenus.com.
Oh, thank you so much. And can I just ask you, if there was one thing you could share that you think it'd be helpful for women to understand about men and men to understand about women, is there just one thing that could really help people in their relationships?
Well, there's 1,000 things. That's why I've got 23 books.
Right.
But the most important things are in Men Are From Mars. And they go, except today I was mentioning, we have to realize we're in this role reversal, and men have to learn how to help women come back to their safety. And women have to learn how to bring out the best in a man. Yes. So I'll talk about one of the chapters of Men Are From Mars very briefly. If you were to look at, love has many flavors, just like ice cream has many flavors, chocolate and vanilla, right? So you have different flavors. Well, there's certain kinds of love that raise testosterone in a man. And there's certain kinds of love that will raise estrogen in a woman. And I'm just going to give a few examples of this. Yeah. Whenever I demonstrate through my words, my reactions, or my feelings, or my behaviors that I care, that produces estrogen. That means I care about you. And to care is huge, huge, huge on the list of feeling safe. If someone cares about me. Now, women have such a need for that. They need reassurance of that all the time. For me, as a man, just the flip side of caring is men need to feel trusted, that they're competent, they're capable, you can depend on us. Yeah. So one of the things I do, for example, I look at my bank accounts every day. I want reassurance that my money is there. Okay. Yeah. I want reassurance I have enough money to do this or that, whatever. You got to look at your budget and all that. So men are always looking for their success, but women are looking for love. Yeah. And so you have to validate her. Validating is saying, I care about you. You're important to me. I do things that show you that, a priority. That's why monogamy is so important. You're more important than anybody else in my life. You're even more important than the children. The wife is number one. Okay. That says I care. Example of care for the men listening is if let's say you had a Ferrari or a new car and somebody dented it in the parking lot, your reaction would be, oh, my car. Okay. That's when your wife's upset. You should feel that. You should feel her pain. It's empathy, caring. I care about you. The next one is understanding. I hear you. I see where you're coming from, and I validate that. I understand it. I get it. I may not agree with it. You can't always agree with people, but I can understand where you're coming from and validate it. It's legitimate. It's valid. It's understandable. That's why in my classes, sometimes I really focus on the way the brain operates is that if you don't have someone to share your feelings with on an ongoing basis, if you're a woman, you will tend to accumulate a charge that will build up. And that's called overreaction, something Freud talked about. And then it became unpopular because men use the word, oh, honey, you're just overreacting, to dismiss her rather than to recognize when she's unhappy, she's overreacting, and you validate her, not saying that she's overreacting, just validating that must be so frustrating. I see how disappointed you are. Tell me your concerns. These are like skills. So understanding, validation, so caring, understanding, and respect. When you respect someone, estrogen goes up. Every book says, oh, secret of open a man's heart, show him respect. No, 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 no. I'm not saying don't respect him. I'm saying if you respect him too much, you're going to raise his estrogen. When you respect someone, you honor them, you put them ahead of you, you sacrifice yourself for them. If I sacrifice myself for you, your estrogen goes up. And the easiest example of a man who gets too much respect is the royalty of Europe. See, I'm born, I have the divine lineage in me. I never had to prove anything. Another example of that, and they're of course they're tyrants. They're all tyrants. They've always been tyrants. Everybody's a slave to them. All this nonsense about black slavery, I just have to say it. There are 1 million white slaves in Africa a few centuries ago. Slavery is everywhere. Slavery is in Greek days. Slavery is in Roman. America and England are the two countries that stopped slavery. You know, oh, how horrible our past is. No, our past is a tremendous transformation from the world that had blind spot. So no problem with slavery. Just like even today, we have no problem with charging minimum wage to people. At least they're getting minimum wage and they can own property. So that's the past. But think
John,
about we're done.
I'm so sorry. We do have to wrap up, but is there one final
message
to give to
men with your wife? Say, help me understand that better. Tell me more. What else? And that's going to raise her estrogen. And don't give her solutions unless she really clearly is saying, what should I do about this? Otherwise, show empathy and understanding and say, I hear you. Women, walk away. Anytime a man's talking, anytime you have a chance, if it's true for you, say, what a good idea. Or that makes sense. Well, you're right about that. And put a little feminine juice into that, and his testosterone will spike.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much. Those were such words of wisdom that I think we can all really utilize in a very practical way and keep those relationships harmonious. Thank you so much, Dr. Gray, for coming on the Metamorphosis Show. And I really love how openly and politically incorrectly that you shared. It's the
truth. It's real.
Yeah, it's
sometimes
wonderful.
Real is painful to some people, and they have to get over it.
Yeah, it's wonderful just to hear raw, unfiltered truth. I really respect that. Thank you to our listeners. Please come tune in again to the Metamorphosis Show, and please check out all of Dr. John Gray's amazing offerings on his website and all of his amazing books. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for joining Dr. Tassel Faith, Priestess of Metamorphosis, on your road to transformation and freedom. Each step takes you closer to becoming an awakened, empowered, courageous, and a moves mountains kind of person. Join us again, the second and fourth Wednesday of each month at 12 noon Eastern Time for more guidance and encouragement. Until then, lead with your magic, trust the unseen, experience quantum leaps.